Welcome to Dr. Sowat's Guide to Case Studies, Part 2. In Part 1, we looked at the purpose of a case study and we delved into the exploration phase. In this video, we'll take a look at the analysis and strategy stages. And just revisiting our Get Big, Get Small approach, you see where the emphasis for this presentation lies in the analysis and strategy stages. Let's take a look at the analysis phase, or problem analysis. Our goal with this is to approach case studies in a sound, grounded, analytical way. And to do so, we have various tools at our disposal. We will look at audience analysis, KISS charts, and ABC charts. Let me just preface this by saying that each of these is available as a separate Dr. Sowat PowerPoint presentation, so I invite you to take a look at those. But we'll start with audience analysis. And audience analysis is a tool that helps you uncover how your audiences will view issues, how they may respond, or make sense of different information. KISS charts, it is not keep it simple, stupid. Instead, you're identifying what do your audiences know about the issue, what can you infer about that, and as a result, the so what do I do about that, and so what do I not do as a result of that. And then there are ABC charts as well. The objective, though, of these three tools, and like I say, each is a tool and each provides different information and specific information. So as a result, we want to determine what are some key insights or key takeaways that emerge from these particular tools. These then help us as we proceed into our next phase. But let's go into a little bit of detail. Let me share with you some examples. What I have at this point is a planning worksheet. This is what we use when we help companies go through major changes. And this is an example of how you might approach audience analysis. What we do is we divide, take a look at the different stakeholders or audiences or groups that might be affected by the change. And we identify different factors such as how will each group be impacted, or who are the key opinion leaders in each group, channel and the like, and key concerns. Our goal in all of this is to get to that right-hand column, the communication objectives for each group. But it only comes through identifying and answering those various questions. What it is, it's a way to systematically think about your audiences to help you arrive at your communication objectives for your case. Also, let me just stress that this is described in communicating for managerial effectiveness. And this approach is useful not only for your case studies, but if you're helping your organization to implement changes in your organization. Now, we have that last column of communication goals or communication objectives for the group. What might that involve? Well, let's take a look at this slide. This is one way of looking at communication goals or examples of some types. And we're approaching it in terms of how difficult is it to achieve this particular goal for the communication consultant. What we see is at the base of the hierarchy, it's pretty easy to inform a group or audiences about a certain piece of information. That's very easy to do. You can spray and pray, for example. But as you move up the hierarchy to educating, for example, in educating, you're helping people really make sense about issues or help them understand how executives think about the issue. That is indeed more difficult. These may be part of what you consider as your communication objectives and what might fall into that last column on the Metacom planning worksheet. What we have here is an example of how you might summarize what you generated from the planning worksheet or the audience analysis. And this is just a collab. I've isolated different audiences that were impacted by an actual change that we worked through. I've identified their concerns. Like I said, it's just a collapse view, and some of the communication goals or objectives that resulted. Now, this was a case where we were implementing a change, a major change in a medical clinic. So we identified the various stakeholders who were going to be impacted by this change: older patients, younger, medical staff, and physicians, and we worked through the case in that particular manner. What you'll see is as you take a look, it's not so much the content of what I have here, but really the categories of what we're looking at. What you'll see is many of the goals that resulted, or the communication objectives, are some of the higher level, or they would be placed in the higher level on the hierarchy of communication goals that we talked about previously. Now, we're not quite ready to determine strategy, but these provide our insights that will be helpful to us in arriving at our strategy. We're also going into detail, or a little example about KISS charts. Again, this is in the analysis phase. So this is just an example, and like I said, this is available in a Dr. Sowat, an individual Dr. Sowat video. In this case, this is a scenario where you are planning, or the individual is planning, a book discussion. And the person identified or knew that there were different audiences. There were introverts and extroverts that would be in the audience. So the know, so this is what we're saying, the KISS. What do you know? What can you infer given that? So what should you do as a result? So what should you avoid? So with introverts, for example, what the person knows, just by nature of being an introvert, is that introverts need thinking and planning time prior to voicing opinions in a group setting. So what you should avoid doing is springing a discussion on them about the book without giving them time to plan. So that's why we have, so what should I do, in the third column, is you give them some advance notice. You tell them what's going to happen in the meeting, the discussion group, and you ask them, come prepared to discuss the implications of the book, for example. See, similarly with the extroverts, because that's sort of the opposite end of the continuum. What this does, or the KISS charts do, is they help you build sensitivity of how to modify communication to address different needs, different sensibilities that your audiences might have. Another planning tool is the ABC charts, and this too is available as a separate PowerPoint presentation. This is helpful in your analytical phase. ABC, you're looking at A as the attributes of a situation, the benefits, and the concerns. Now, in this example, we were analyzing the possibility of using a certain type of paper to produce a brochure in a work environment. So we identified the attributes of the paper. We said it's 100-pound weight paper, bright green color, and we looked at really, it's like a cost benefit, if you will. What we'll see in this case, this would be very helpful to us as we move through the strategy section and get into tactics, and this might come to light and be very helpful when we choose the channels for how we might disseminate our message. But what the ABC charts do is they provide you a way to provide a balanced perspective of a decision or an innovation. Let's look at strategy development. This is by far the most difficult task. What we're looking at is taking a big picture view of your case, and it's what choices do you make about the direction of your case. It's much like planning the blueprint of a home building project. You want something that's well thought out. It's the overarching view of your situation. When you do a blueprint of a home, it shows the flow between one room and the next. It's well thought out. So too is the strategy of a case. And what we emphasize is it's the choices that you make about the direction of the case, emphasizing the word choices. What do you want to chase? What do you want to talk about? What do you not want to talk about? Obviously, there are innumerable points that you could talk about, but strategy is about making choices. So one definition, my big picture perspective about the proper direction based on analyses, theories, models, and principles. Again, think of overarching blueprint, if you will. With that being said, we take a look at what sets it in motion is the business goals. We start with business goals, and we've identified an organization's business goals. It's been uncovered through our 100 fact exercise or through other research that we've done. You know, what does the business want to achieve? Then that builds into our communication goals. So everything drives the other. The communication goals are driven by the business goals. And this is based on our audience analysis, on KISS charts, or what else we've done in the analytical phase. We develop our core message. What do you want to say? What is your overarching theme or message? You know, words have consequences. For example, years ago in the 70s, or the 60s actually, Chevrolet had a model of car called the Nova. You know, it worked in the United States, Nova, but in the Latin American countries, Nova meant not, it doesn't go, it doesn't work. So words have consequences, and we need to um, those judiciously. We also want to determine the phases or stages in our when we develop strategy. What do we want to accomplish first, second, third? For example, if we're communicating about a major change, I might have stage one. I want to relay to my audience the need for the change. Stage two, I want to provide the remedy. Stage three, I want to show that there are no significant disadvantages. Remedy. And this is an example. This is a healthcare change. It's an example of how you might lay out a communication strategy. But like I reiterated, it's only derived after deep thought of the patterns that you've uncovered, your communication goals, and all the work that you've done up to this point. What this deals with is you want to communicate about some healthcare changes in this organization. So what drives it are the business goals. For this particular organization, their goals were to reduce healthcare costs, minimize disruptions in the workplace, but also maintain the belief that this is a great place to work, because that's one of their overarching goals, is to show employees that this is a great place to work. So what led to that were my communication goals. And as you read this, you'll see that many of these goals are really high level on our hierarchy. The educate, you want to inspire employees, that type of thing. What emerged from that was our basic message. And the basic message in the third column in the communication strategy was that every company is dealing with this issue. In other words, this is not unique, dealing with healthcare changes. It's a universal challenge that companies are facing, but the criteria below, but we can address it by being showing that we're consistent with our core values, we're competitive, and we're creative in our approach. These became known as the 3 C's. So that became part of our theme, part of our message as well. And what emerged from that were the specifics that emerged from our core message. So this is just an example of one particular strategy development. We thank you for listening, and we invite you to tune into part 3 of Dr. Sowat's case study guide, which discusses the tactics, the operational how-tos about how to implement your strategy.